Welcome to Growing Your Firm, brought to you by Jetpack Workflow. We're here to help firms unlock the secrets to help you reach your goals faster. And now, here's your host, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow, David Cristello.
Hey everybody, David Cristello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Jordan Sublette. He is the CEO and founder of Cloud Accounting Staffing. We were just talking about, right before I hit record, Jordan, what were you doing before this? And he started his own firm. He got through the journey of building out and vetting out outsourced talent. He sold the firm earlier this year, went all in on this new endeavor. And so we're really excited about, the origin story of how he built his firm, what he's learned from outsourcing talent in his early days, talking a little bit about how he structured the sale, how he transitioned out. And of course, we're going to get into what he's learned in the wonderful world of outsourcing. Everybody's experiencing talent crunches. So we're going to dive into that and so much more. But first, Jordan, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, David. Thanks for having me on. Long-time listener.
Yeah, first-time caller. I love it. This is always great to bring, the community onto the pod. We have so many amazing folks like yourself that have been listening. They're doing great things. And so that's a call to arms. If you're listening and you think that's you, email me, david@jetpackworkflow.com. Maybe we can sync something up and you can come on just like Jordan. But Jordan, take us back to the launch of the firm. We're going to dig into and outsourcing here in a little bit, but to help us understand, when did you launch your accounting firm and what were the services and kind of what was a typical client for you?
Sure. So I started with a very traditional public accounting background. Actually, right out of college, I went and worked for a large firm here in Indianapolis, like a top 100 firm. I worked in what was called the Entrepreneurial Services Group, which just means I worked with a lot of small and mid-sized companies. I did financial statement reviews, compilations, even some audits, but then I would also do corporate tax returns, individual tax returns. So I kind of just learned a little bit about everything. And that is what kind of gave me the confidence to go into this like small firm world where you kind of do everything for your clients. So I left that firm after 6 or 7 years, got an SBA loan and bought a really small kind of traditional legacy type firm from a guy who was retired.
Love it. What year was that?
That was 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Let's-
So
What was
bought that.
what was the
Go ahead.
loan amount for? And what was the size of the firm? Like, what did that structure look like?
Yeah, just shy of $500,000. So it was, it was a 4-person team, one owner, one admin, 2 accounting staff that would do a bunch of tax returns, bookkeeping, financial statements, payroll. But yeah, just under $500,000 a year annual revenue.
And what was it about this firm that felt like it was a great fit for the acquisition?
In hindsight, nothing. Like just like the size of it, I guess. I wanted to. So I guess for people who don't know, like when you go and you want to get an SBA loan and structure these deals to buy a small firm, like in my case too, I didn't have any money really. So all I had to come up with was $50,000, right? Because if I could come up with 10% down, the way you can structure these deals a lot of times is usually the SBA wants 10 to 20% down, but you can structure that with a portion of seller financing, right? And have the owner who's selling the firm put up a portion of that down payment. So you don't have to come up with much cash. So that was something that was important to me to make this move. But I really just wanted to go out on my own. So I called up a broker and again, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but just started looking at listings, and this one was nearby. It was a deal that we felt we could get the financing done. I went and met with the owner and we had a pretty good rapport. So I just kind of went with it. But again, in hindsight, like it was very traditional, like no systems, like they weren't using a Jetpack workflow or any other kind of task management or practice management, filing cabinets, paper, kind of low fees for their services. So in hindsight, probably not the kind of firm that I would want to acquire again if I was doing it again, but no
Yeah.
regrets on how things have been.
Yeah, you needed to get in the game, right? And I don't know, did you have seller financing on this?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So
Yeah,
I was able to get the owner to put up a portion of that during the acquisition, which was helpful.
perfect. So was the total acquisition price 500K?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got it. What was the top line revenue of that firm when you bought it?
Yeah, it was, I think the year, because we bought it or we closed right before year end. And I want to say they did 490.
Okay, okay. Yep. So
Right
1x
before we
1x top
closed.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we closed January 1st. And there was also a portion of that too that was tied to an earnout, a 1 year earnout for the next year. So we had to achieve that same revenue, which we did. So
Fantastic. So did you close January 1, 2019 or January 1, 2020?
January 1st of 2020, I'd already left my previous firm the fall of 2019, kind of formed my company, started trying to do some of my own, just selling and looking for clients while I was going through the process of the acquisition.
Okay. All right. So it was this is a bit of a loaded question, but January 1, 2020, I mean, you see an opportunity, you see opportunities in systems, the fees are low, it's really old school kind of firm. I imagine you want to drive some change. So, how did you juggle 2020? You bought this business, you want to drive change, then you have COVID. So, like, what was that year like for you?
It was crazy. I also had just gotten married near the end of 2019, and we were having our first baby due April of 2020. So it was a crazy time. My wife was great and supported the whole thing, of course. And yeah, and COVID, I mean, really scared me. But ultimately, I mean, look, it ended up honestly being kind of a blessing for us. I kind of really jumped on helping clients with the paycheck protection program. So we were able to help a bunch of clients secure funding to kind of keep them in business. And that helped us really grow the top line in that first year too. I also really kind of tackled the project of moving everyone to a monthly recurring revenue model, all of our clients. So we started collecting payments on the first of the month from every client. And like just built more of a subscription revenue model to kind of keep our cash flow steady throughout the entire year. Now that was tough because I mean that involved like just sitting down and just banging out phone calls and calling clients, which by the way, a lot of them had no clue who I was. So, we were kind of tackling making introductions to me and then also like, hey, here's how we're going to do stuff moving forward. But yeah, it was scary. You're like, I went into it prepared, like, okay, well, because I was making a decent living at my previous firm before I did this. I went into that year saying, okay, I'm kind of prepared to make nothing this year. And then again, like we actually did uh I think $670,000 top line that first year. So like again, it ended up working out really great. So we had a big jump in revenue.
Yeah, that's amazing. How much of that revenue was one-off project work around like payroll protect versus increasing your monthly subscriptions?
I think the paycheck protection program was probably like 50 or 60K of revenue. So I mean, substantial for like a really small firm, but it didn't make up that increase. Actually, this podcast is kind of like has a special place in my heart because I heard like during this time, I heard Michael Lee on this podcast from Reconcile. And
Mm.
and he kind of talked about how he's building his kind of sales machine or his firm. And I really was interested and I reached out to Michael Lee because I heard him on this podcast. And then like we connected, formed a relationship. I was, stealing free advice from him all the time and did a bunch of the things that he was doing and told me to do, which really helped us grow the top line to bring in new clients. He talked about specifically like using a company called Robots on here for like cold outreach and how he did that. And I thought that was really interesting. So
So did you execute a pretty similar playbook?
I
And in
did.
terms of okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we started doing cold outbound, just sending a bunch of emails and which by the way, like really was working a lot in 2020 and 2021. I think literally everybody does it now and it doesn't seem as effective.
Yeah, these growth tactics, there's always a window, whether it's Facebook ads or outbound, or like there is something enduring about pretty much any growth channel where, some part of it will work, but is it like pouring gas on the fire? right? Outbound might have had a moment, Facebook ads have a moment, maybe it's LinkedIn now is having a moment. It's interesting, that you have these pockets where if you take relentless action, you could really grow quite quickly as the rest of the market catches up. I'm curious, was it challenging with a legacy staff? Like I know you implemented things like Jetpack in the firm. Was it hard to start introducing cloud-based tools, or was COVID this great, weird, tragic catalyst where like everyone's like, yeah, of course we're going to start using these tools now?
Yeah, both. It was really challenging because of the way they had operated for years, this team that had been there in place. So, I get there and there's no like now this seems even crazier now, but like my company now uses Slack. We used Slack before I sold the firm, but they had nothing. I mean, it was and they barely even used their email either. So it was just like walking around like if they wanted to chat, it's like, hey, walk over to the office next door. And which, by the way, to a lot of girls probably seems very normal, but like now, like it's so easy to just with real time communication using like Slack or Teams. But so we didn't have anything like that in place. There was a lot of like QuickBook, QuickBooks desktop going on where clients would come in and drop off like a flash drive. So just stuff like that where we had to like, okay, guys, we got to move clients that we're doing bookkeeping for, they need to be on bookings online. Like our communication, we need to move to Slack. Practice management, like we had to go through like our, onboarding with Jetpack was was big for us and was again like a real project to tackle because we had to go like build all these Excel files. Like, here's all our clients, here's what we do for those clients. Now let's get this all imported so it all lives somewhere and stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. So yeah, there was a lot of kind of those projects that we just had to quarterback to turn our firm into a better operating machine that kind of lived in the cloud and had standardization.
Amazing. Yeah. And it's been a really rapid journey. I mean, closing date January 1, 2020. You sorted off earlier this year. So in 2023, sold off in Q1. So 36 months start to finish. And by the time you had sold the firm, where was the headcount and where was the revenue at?
We were a team of 15, of which 10 of those people were in the Philippines. We'll talk more about that. But and the top line was 1.5 million. So grew up pretty quickly over the course of the years. Again, kind of using those systems that I just mentioned, or the outbound cold email.
And were you running all the sales calls that, people responded favorably to these emails? Were you the salesperson?
Yeah, I was in charge of sales. So and the way I was able to kind of migrate my time over there is I made like early on when I bought the firm, as we started to grow, I made a really key hire, the guy who actually ended up buying the out, as you mentioned in January of 2023. And then like quickly kind of transition relationships to him, like client relationships that remember I barely had in the first place because I had just bought the firm. So he became like he started quarterbacking all those client relationships and really just took over the workflow of the firm, managing our staff as we started adding people in the Philippines. And that allowed me to spend the majority of my time on sales and growing the top line.
So what was it about this person? What's his name, by the way? Because I don't want to call him this person for the rest of the interview.
Yeah, Matt Johnston.
Okay, Matt. All right. So what made Matt so special? What made him a key hire? Was it his seniority? You brought in somebody that was quite senior, or were there other intangibles or attributes that gave you the confidence to hand over these critical client relationships?
So Matt had, he's similar age to me and had a pretty similar background in public accounting. So something about, and I met him through randomly just through a recruiter who I engaged to find me somebody. So we just hit it off in the interview and I kind of sold them on, I think I brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the interview. I led him under the hood and showed him everything I was doing. And I think he just believed in it. And then when we came in, man, he worked really hard and he just cared a ton. And he was just somebody who kind of got things across the finish line and like he did what he said he was going to do or took over relationships. And it was just really, really important to us to get it done.
When did you hire him in this journey over 36 months? And how quickly after hiring did you start transitioning key relationships over to him?
Yeah, so I hired him actually 6 months after I bought the firm. So he was there basically from the start. I turned over one of the staff um, from the legacy firm that I bought that just really, I just knew where I wanted to take the firm, and he wasn't going to be the one who was going to be able to get me there. So I had to let go of him and then brought in Matt again. It was 6 months after I bought the firm. And then just right away, like as soon as we brought Matt in, and like part of his onboarding was, hey, next week I'm going to introduce you to these 5 clients. And then the week after that, I'm going to introduce you to these five. So that's what it looked like, just setting up those calls or even again, because of the type of firm is just people swinging into the office and getting the shake to say I did beat him.
Got it. And was this a run of the mill recruiter or industry recruiter? And what was your pay? Was it 20%, 30% year one with the recruiter?
Yeah, 20% year one salary, which I think I can say so it was a $75,000 salary. So we had to pay 20%. The recruiter, it was a very small recruiter, like a one person shop. So, and she knew too, like, hey, I was kind of going out on a limb here, like it was early in my journey. So she let me pay that too over like 3 installments over the course of like 6 months, which was generous and helpful. But
Does she specialize in accounting?
she doesn't actually. So just someone that I was introduced to, and I engaged a couple of different recruiting firms. Some did specialize in accounting, but I mean, she was the one who kind of hustled for me and came to me somebody.
What did you see that gave you the confidence to hire her? Like I've talked to firms and they're thinking about recruiters and they go out and they vet them and everybody shows the success stories and they charge, similar amounts. But like, what was it about her where she didn't specialize in it? She's one person army, but you decided to move forward with her. Like what was it?
I think it was that just like really nimble, customizable type service that you get from some of these like really small professional service companies. So, I mean, over the course of the call, like she just asked a lot of good questions and like she listened. And then, she was constantly following up and sending me updates on, hey, I found this person. What do you think? So she was really on top of it throughout the process. Whereas like, some of the other recruiters I engaged were really big companies. And one of them, like, we had the call and I was like, okay, we're doing this. And there were no fees up until that point either. So there was no financial commitment from me. And then I just didn't hear from her for like a couple of months at all. I remember sending them an email like, hey, just checking in, like, yeah, we're still looking for this. He's like, okay, thanks for the update.
Hey, growing and firm community, David here. Just want to share a quick note about Jetpack Workflow, our accounting workflow software. Now, for almost a decade, we've helped 5,000 plus accountants, bookkeepers, and firm owners use Jetpack Workflow to better organize accounting workflows, automate recurring tasks, and easily track and monitor client work. Never miss a deadline again. Stop using messy Post-it notes, generic tools, legacy systems, or spreadsheets to handle workflows and bring sanity to your client work. Now head on over to jetpackworkflow.com. That's jetpackworkflow.com to get started with a 14-day free trial or schedule a one-on-one demo with us. All right, now let's get back to the show. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah, the attributes of how they treat the sales relationship is maybe how then they go out and recruit for you, right? So if they're pleasantly persistent, that's going to run downstream. And if they're not, then that will probably run downstream too. So fast forward, you triple top line. It's amazing. 36 months, really strong growth. Go from 4 to 15, 10 in the Philippines, 5 in office. What was the organizational structure before you sold the firm of these 15?
Yeah. So Matt, again, when I hired him and we started adding people on the lower teams, the people we were adding were like bookkeeping or task practice type staff where they were doing payroll, invoicing, bill pay, stuff like that. So Matt was what we call our director of accounting. And then they all just reported to him. So ultimately, I keep using this word, he quarterbacked the relationships, the projects, if there were buyers with clients and he had to step in, like that was kind of his role, and to review financial statements when they went out the door. But otherwise, our staff in the Philippines were handling all the transactional, classifying transactions, reconciling bank accounts, credit cards, and putting together financial statements, posting journal entries, doing the month-end close before he would get his eyes on it and it would go out the door. And then before I sold to, I had made another hire through the same recruiter, by the way. And so for our second director of accounting, so now we had two directors of accounting. The second, his name was Joseph Everson. And we had, again, we just had 10 staff in the Philippines reporting to those two people.
Okay, and that was it. There's the 2 directors and staff would report up. There's no additional layers, right? So there was director and then individual contributors, and they all rolled up to the director. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, going into outsourcing, how did you go into that world? Did you start working with firms? Did you start sourcing your own talent? What did that look like to start navigating these first hires in the Philippines?
Both. So I engaged a couple of the, accounting industry specific vendors that you and your audience probably heard of and worked with some of them. I did it on my own as well. So I kind of got all the experience doing it different ways, working with different companies. Yeah, I'm trying it all out. It also meant yeah, I talked to people and tried out folks from India. I tried people in the Philippines. So I kind of worked with people all over the globe too.
And what was it about it, I mean, I suspect what set you up for the new ventures that you were able to source talent more effectively on your own than using some of the other firms, and so what did you find out during this period that led you to say, "Well, instead of continuing to work with firms, I'm gonna maybe start my own"?
Yeah, I just felt like, and this isn't a knock to any of those offshoring or staffing companies, but there wasn't, it was the value for me was in like the sourcing and recruiting. So then finding someone, and then there wasn't really any value in kind of the ongoing service. And also like it seemed like the people they were nice people, the people who were like managing my relationship or the account management people, but I didn't feel like they really understood my business or like the accounting industry all that well. And so I don't know if they were really focusing on identifying like the type of people we were looking for. So then I just kind of started poking around on LinkedIn, talking to people, and then I kind of developed my own pretty good way of recruiting talent.
Okay, interesting. Now, the firm had been, by certainly top line revenue perspectives, very successful. You came in, you made a bet, made a bit of a gamble. You got an SBA loan, $500,000 practice. 3 years transformed it from a legacy firm to it seems like a very cloud centric mixture of onshore and offshore staff. You went to subscription revenue. Did all these changes. You hit 1.5. Why sell?
Yeah. So in 2022, Dave, I started my own staffing company that specializes in placing accountants in the Philippines with US based and Canadian firms as well. And so I kind of got serious about that at the very beginning of 2022. It grew much faster than I expected. And now here I am kind of running both companies. So it just became a lot. And along the way, too, I had a second kid and I have a third one coming in October this year. So like it just
They're good
became,
luck charms. They're good luck
I know.
charms. Every time you seem to, business grows every time you have a kid.
That's right. I love them. And so it just became a lot. And I kind of looked at both opportunities and I just felt like this was going to be a better opportunity for me. I think that no doubt like COVID accelerated people's timelines and their willingness to work with remote teams. You couple that with the talent and labor shortage here domestically, uh, and the tools available, like, I think all those things together, like the big firms have been doing this forever, right? They've been using offshore talent. All of those other things I just mentioned have really made this possible and easy. And like, again, like you almost have to do this now because of the labor shortage here domestically. So like, I just thought this was the better opportunity of the two. And I felt really comfortable handing the keys over to Matt at Accounting for too. So all those things, it just kind of makes sense.
Got it. Got it. And so help me understand this transition to selling the firm to Matt. I mean, obviously, he seems like as cloud accounting staffing is growing much faster. You have this thought like, can't do both. I think I want to sell my stake in the firm. So, how did that transaction negotiation process take place? Was it, you're still involved in a earn out retention capacity? Have you completely cut the cord? Like, at a high level or whatever you can disclose, how did that transaction take place and what did it look like?
Yeah, so I surprised him when I kind of proposed this idea. He had always wanted to be like an owner of the firm, but he had made that clear to me like from the very beginning. And that was always my point too, is that, hey, we're gonna, because I didn't know this staffing thing was gonna happen. And so yeah, we were always destined to like be partners running the firm. So it kind of surprised him in that sense that now I wanted to sell the firm to him. So and it made due diligence. Like, I mean, he agreed right away. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't let me sell it to someone else. Like, I want to own this firm. So he bought the firm, and then due diligence was easy because he knew everything. He managed our clients. He managed our staff. We had access to every program that we were using. So it was just a matter of like, the biggest challenge was just working with lenders, like usual, to get it across the finish line.
Got it, got it. Was there any seller financing on this end? Did you get the other side of the table this round, or you had to do a little bit of seller financing, or no?
I did, yeah. But overall, it was still a good deal for me. So yeah, I am still kind of hanging around on the hook, like financially. Uh, and then also you asked about like, am I still, so I'm informally still involved. Like I don't have a specific role there, but people, because I was growing the brand over several years, I still get prospects reaching out that may want accounting work, and I'll help Matt still like close those deals just because I care about him, I care about the firm. So I'm informally still involved, but financially still tied in the firm for a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting that you knew he wanted to move in the direction of buying a firm because one of the things that was sticking in my head, which is like, well, he seems to be, fantastic at, the post-sale relationship project management, but does he want to do sales calls? But if he wants to be an owner, I'm guessing like he's open to doing it, right? So like, is that
Yeah,
correct?
he was always great at that too. So
Oh, okay.
so even throughout the process of growing the firm, I mean, I bet in 2021 and 2022, like a third or half the sales calls, I would just pull them into them as well. Or as the second I had a good sales call and they wanted to have kind of a second call, I would bring him onto it too, just because he was really great at that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's dive into cloud accountant staffing. Who are you typically working with? What's the ideal client? What kind of needs are they typically coming to you with? And we've talked about this a few times in the past, but I'm curious what kind of the going rate for some of the talent tiers are, what you're seeing in the market today.
Yeah, so we primarily are working with small and mid-sized firms, which I
How
know
would
maybe
you?
a bunch. Yeah, I'll
How,
define that. It's
yeah.
there, firms as small as like a 5-person firm, right? Because when I hired my first staff in the Philippines, like, we were a 4-person team, and our fifth hire was someone in the Philippines. So there's definitely some of that. And now we've recently, kind of the higher end for us over the last year has been like 40 to 50-person firms. And we recently just started working with an 80-person firm. So the gap is kind of growing, but we're probably still um, like best serve those firms. They're probably in like the $1 million in annual revenue range, which might be like a 5 to 10-person firm. Like those seem to be the people that I can connect with the best and understand kind of the pain points and where they're at in their journey as that firm.
And when they come to you, are you purely recruiting the talent and then they manage the relationship, or are you have your own talent pool and you're constantly recruiting that, and you're almost like lending out your talent pool to the firm? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have 2 full-time recruiters that work for us that are in the Philippines. And so they're constantly recruiting. So we have a pipeline of candidates available. So then when a firm owner engages me and we have that discovery call, I try to learn about their firm and the type of person they're looking for. And then, yeah, the very obvious value add is that recruiting and sourcing of the talent, right? So I either have those people already available that might fit, or we'll go and specifically look for that type of person. But yeah, we have that call, and then these, technically speaking, the staff in the Philippines are still my employees, but culturally speaking, they're fully dedicated to your firm. So if you hire someone with us, they work exclusively for you 40 hours a week. And it becomes your responsibility to train, manage, bring them into the firm culture. And then our responsibility is HR and IT, right? And that's kind of how it works.
Okay, got it. Like the invoicing, are you facilitating that? Like it sounds like the staff member is fully integrated in the firm, but let's say firm, for whatever reason doesn't work out, they need to downsize. That person goes right back in your talent pool, and you're looking for the next opportunity for them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So our accounting firm clients pay us as just a US based vendor, right? Once a month, a flat fee. And then it's our responsibility to pay those staff in the Philippines. But yeah, if for whatever reason there's turnover, then we hold on to that staff or we look to place them at another one.
Got it, got it. And I guess high level, what's the going rate? Do you have any comparison of North America based or US based versus, Filipino talent and what the difference is in a per hour rate or any kind of demarcation you have around billings?
Yeah, so it's usually around 50% cost savings. It can be better than that. It can be worse than that, kind of just depending on where you're at in the US, right? And also depending on the background and experience of that staff. But at the very like transactional level, like bookkeeping type person who if all you want is somebody to classify transactions and reconcile a bank account or a credit card, that person might cost $2,000 a month for a full-time person. Um, if you want someone who has their CPA designation in the Philippines, they had 6, 7 years experience doing US tax returns, and you're bringing them on as like a tax senior, that person might cost $4,000 a month. So it's kind of a wide range. Right now, our average placement is about $3,000 a month. So it's someone in between those two. And and again, it's either someone you're thinking on. So $3,000 a month is 36K annually. It usually is like someone who, if you were hiring that person in the US, they're probably like a $70,000 to $75,000 a year type person, which gets you to that kind of 50% cost savings I mentioned.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Jordan, this has been a real blast. It was really fun learning about your journey as a firm owner. It's always great to have a Jetpack community member come on board as well as a fellow listener. If somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, learn more about what you're offering for the community, what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Yeah, go to the website, cloudaccountingstaffing.com. There's a way to get in touch and book a meeting with me there. You can email me at jordan@cloudaccountingstaffing.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm not active enough there posting content, but I do always check my messages there. So that's the best ones to reach me.
All right, fantastic. And if you couldn't jot down all the notes from the interview today with Jordan, we're going to link it up at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll do a summary. We'll add the links. We'll link it up to your website and so much more. And if you enjoyed this interview, leave a review. Helps us get the word out. And if you heard something today, Jordan mentioned this interview with Michael, which was so pivotal for his journey. If you heard something like that today for your firm, share it with a fellow firm owner that needed to hear some of today's content. I know that's the best way to say thank you to Jordan for coming on the show, aside from booking a call with him, of course, if you want to look at outsourcing options. Jordan, it's been a real treat. Thanks for coming on.
David, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and maybe I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining Growing Your Firm, the podcast series for global, small, and medium-sized businesses ready to scale and increase profits. You can check out more podcasts by following the links in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. At Jetpack Workflow, we're all about maximizing returns for accounting firms and CPAs. Check out more podcasts on growing your firm and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.